Okay, and it says we're live. So, hello everybody. I'm Zach, and this is the Video Game Book Club. Today we're going to be talking about Destiny 2, and hold on, I need to mute Graham. And so yeah, Destiny 2 initial release date September 6, 2017, developed by Bungie, published by Activision. Platforms, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Microsoft Windows. Cost $60 or your regional equivalent, and the season pass is $35. Did I get all that right?
Sounds right.
Okay. So we're going to go down the line and introduce ourselves, kind of give our hot takes on this game, and a little bit more information like whether we've played it on PC or console, kind of our preferred method of playing this, and kind of how much we've played of it, and kind of our perspective. So if we're going down the line, is Alec back yet?
Nope, he's going last.
Okay. I guess I'll go first. Like I said, I'm Zach. I've been playing this game on PC. I play it the vast majority of time with a controller because I played Destiny 1 on console, and that just feels comfortable to me. And I've played a good amount of it, and this is a weird one. I'm kind of torn on this because I think it has a lot of improvements from Destiny 1, and I think it has a lot of things that it kind of got worse on. And so I think that'll be a good conversation to have. And we will also hopefully be talking about like kind of the comparisons between this and everything that's been going on recently with Star Wars Battlefront 2, and kind of the response to these monetization tactics by a lot of these AAA games recently. But yeah, we can move on to somebody else. So who wants to go next?
I'm Nick. I have not played the first Destiny. I'm playing the second one for the first, of all the Destinies, first one on PC. Using keyboard and mouse, I'd say I played roughly, I don't even know, maybe 30 hours. That's eyeballing estimate. And what I think of this game is it's a jack of all trades, master of none. That's what I think of it.
All right, I'll go next. I'm Mitch. I have played a lot of Destiny 1 and a lot of Destiny 2. I have well over 800 hours on Destiny 1. Too many. Destiny 2, I have 62 hours on Xbox and 72 hours on PC. I mostly play PC since the PC launch. Pretty much have never played Xbox since the PC launch. I would say I play keyboard and mouse more often than a controller, but I like to switch back and forth because I get a lot of wrist problems when I play with mouse and keyboard. And Destiny 2 is very interesting. I really like Destiny 2, and I really hate Destiny 2. There's a ton of stuff that is really good and really improved, and there's a ton of stuff that is so far regressed that makes you really wonder what the developers Bungie were thinking. And that's my thoughts, initial thoughts.
All right, Graham or Alec?
Is Graham still muted?
Yes. I think he's able to unmute himself.
So I unmuted myself. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
So I'm Graham. I played Destiny 1. I play on console for Destiny 2, Xbox, but I have recently gotten it for PC, going through my 5th playthrough of the game. So quite a lot of experience under my belt with Destiny 2. And even though I put in a ton of time into Destiny 2, I still feel like there's a lot of things that it did wrong compared to Destiny 1. And kind of like Mitch said, a lot of regressions, but still a lot of improvements too. So it'll be an interesting discussion.
And is Alec back yet?
Do not think so.
Alec is AFK. Okay.
Well, wait, we'll have him introduce himself when he gets back. We can just start talking.
Yeah.
I think.
I'm in the command center. I'm sending out a search party to look for him. But so, what do you guys want to talk about first?
I think we could just start with the broadest thing, which is the single player story. Like,
Yeah.
It's probably the first place to start.
Yeah, because as we all know, Destiny 1 was not exactly a heavy hitter with regards to the story. And what did you guys think of the story?
I don't know. I guess Nick hasn't played the first one, so I guess others could go first. But for me, it was more cinematic but less substantial. So more flashy but less like actual information. I think there was like almost less characters involved. There's like one character on each planet, and then like 3 like main characters. But then not having your character talk is kind of weird to me. And yeah, I don't know. And it was short. That's just my broadest take on it.
Yeah, it made me think that they've learned some stuff from the first game, but also not learned some stuff. Like definitely in the first game towards like Taken King, they were trying to push their characters and get people invested in the world a lot more. And it seemed like they were doing a lot more with this, like the first level really pushing the personalities of what are we gonna refer to them as? Like
NPCs or I don't even know.
well, I'm like Cade and Ikora and
the Vanguard.
Yeah, Vanguard.
The Vanguard leaders. Like giving them a lot more personality. In my opinion, going a little bit in the wrong direction with some of them. Like I think Cade being a little bit too like, oh, I'm so random, internet humor. But
I'm Deadpool, guys.
Yeah, I'm Robot Deadpool. I'm Pickle Rick. Yeah, I think in some ways I liked this story a lot more because I liked that they went a lot more in depth. Like I really liked the missions where you get your extra subclasses, where you learn a lot more about like the characters and stuff. I really liked that, but at the same time, it did feel a little bit short, and they didn't really go into a lot of detail on the stuff that I wanted. And the Grimoire cards are still on their fucking website, which pisses me off, kind of.
Well, they don't even exist. There's no Grimoire at all anymore.
There isn't?
There's nothing.
Like,
no.
oh,
There is the scannable items you can find in the world,
Oh,
which
yeah.
give you and little story hits, but there's no way to track where they are.
yeah.
Like, well,
There's-
to track your progress of how many you've like viewed.
The lore went from Grimoire on their site to on weapons and on armor. So you have to get the armor pieces or get the weapons with the specific lore that you want. So like all the raid pieces have lore like
Yeah, I did notice
about
that.
Callus. So like if you really want to know about Callus and all that, you're gonna have to unlock all the raid gear, which I think is a very bad way of doing lore and almost worse than doing the Grimoire. Like the Grimoire, like anyone that wanted to could like go and kind of like just look on their phone. Like after a long day of playing, you could lay in bed and just read a story pretty much. Whereas this is kind of like, yes, it's in the game, but at the same time, it's like not the way you want it in the game.
It's such a lazy way of doing it.
Like
Yeah.
it's improved in that like there's nice that there's now story in game, but it's not improved that there's no depth and it's all like kind of still hidden away and not easily accessible.
Yeah.
But as for like my take on the single player campaign, I agree with Graham, and that there is very flashy and the cutscenes are like it's nice that there's nice visual cutscenes. But they also did that over time, like with Taken King and Destiny 1. They slowly kept putting out more stuff like that and then did better with the story. And I think there's a lot of improvements, but the shortness and it just wasn't great. I think it just feels very shallow. Like, yes, it's there and it exists and there's interesting stuff, but it's a very shallow story. There's not.
Yeah, I kind of
There's no
felt that way
content
with,
to it.
I'm back, by the way.
Oh,
yeah.
Alex back.
You
Introduce
wanna-
yourself.
Yeah, quickly introduce yourself. Like,
Hey,
and give your initial thoughts of the game.
So I'm Alec, and my initial thoughts are that they've succeeded in creating at its core, vanilla Destiny versus Destiny 2. By and far, Destiny 2 is a better overall game in most aspects, but I think that I had probably a little bit more fun with Destiny 1 vanilla than like once I kind of got into it, like the grind and the strikes and stuff. Maybe it's just the rose-colored glasses deals going on, but overall, I've had a lot of fun with it. But in many ways, it doesn't. In many of the ways that matter to me, it doesn't match up to Destiny 1.
All right. And we were kind of going through what we thought of the story campaign.
Yeah, the story, like, it's good, but one of the biggest things that I know we've kind of talked about outside of this is that it doesn't really feel like there's any danger at any point during the game. Like, you don't feel like you're actually going to lose the city or the traveler or anything like that. Like, there's not really a sense of like, oh man, this is really bad, because there's no like real draw of you care about the world that much. Like, there's no real emotional tie-in very well.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of you're going around and like, oh yeah, you're gonna stop this guy,
I think,
and it doesn't feel like a very much time passes at all. So
go-
it's just like, okay, we just did this in a day.
To go directly off of that, like you said, you don't feel like the impact of the danger. Like you see the city, like in the first like slow cutscene or whatever, and then the slow walk mission, but you never go back to it until the very end. So you honestly don't know how much danger the city's in until you finish the game, which is kind of weird. Like, I think it would have really helped if there was a mission where it's like, okay, we're going to go and try to save some refugees, like some prisoners of war, and where you'd go into the city and realize how bad it is off, under Gaul and with no light. Because it's like in Destiny 1, everyone has light, but you don't really understand, like, wow, Guardians are like helping the people without light, because Guardians are up on this pedestal, like for someone, not everyone has light. But in Destiny 2, it's like, even when all the light's gone, you don't see any normal people. Like, it's, I don't know, it's just very disconnected, I feel like.
Yeah, maybe I think they may
times, and that's basically it.
Yeah, I think they're like I really don't like when stories do this, but I think I'm of the opinion that you should show, not tell. And it was really apparent when Ghost was like, they're killing lightless Guardians. And it was like, why don't you like show them just shoot down some Guardians? Maybe they introduce like some Guardians around the intro cutscene where people are like walking around and introducing themselves. And
they don't even need to introduce themselves. If we just saw people,
you just saw like some Guardians die to like actually show like these guys are bad dudes, but it's like now they just, it's a lot of talking.
And going with the campaign, like, and with the not caring about the world really, is that there's like one mission where there's an NPC and it's Zavala at the beginning, and all he does is put a bubble up every so often.
That's it.
And it's like, when I played the beta and I played the mission with, and Zavala was there, and I was like, holy shit, there's another person in my world. Okay, it's 2017. It's amazing that I'm excited about that. But it's, it's something that was lacking from Destiny 1. And in the beta of this game, I was so excited because I was like, oh, there's finally going to be NPCs in the world and on missions with you, probably like, fighting against the Red Legion and shit. And then that just doesn't happen at all.
Yeah.
Like, that was a big letdown that you don't actually fight with anyone, during the game at all.
Yeah, they kind of just push it off on you, like, hey, you have your light, you go out and do everything.
Yeah,
bitch.
exactly.
Yeah, basically, as someone not knowing anything from Destiny 1, I felt like the story was very lackluster about anything. Felt more like an errand boy, and anything I did didn't serve any sort of substantial meaning. Like, I went around a couple planets to find one person. Like, they can take care of themselves. It's Kate or the bitch. Yeah. Like, why do I have to help them out? Like,
Yeah.
and like that seemed like a lot of the missions, which made it even seem shorter and meaningless.
Yeah, basically half the campaign is going to each planet and finding the person, be like, come on, you have to come back. And then immediately after you gather everyone, it's like, okay, it's time for the final assault on the city. It's like, wait, what? I just found everyone. It's like,
Yeah. I think another thing
they
with that
just
is
jump right to the end of the story
there
immediately.
isn't a meaningful way you get from character to character. You like get to the end of Titan, and then suddenly it's like, oh, we know Cade's on Nessus. And it's like, okay, let's go to Nessus. And then you meet Cade, and Cade's like, oh, we know Ikora's on Io. Let's go to Io. And it's like there's no actual like development of why we're going somewhere. We just get told to go there suddenly.
Yeah, which is the same problem that Destiny 1 had. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like, oh, we need to do all this, so let's just think of a stupid reason for it. And like I really did like the end of the campaign, like the last couple of levels where it felt like, oh, we're doing this really big important thing, and then the campaign just kind of ends.
It actually started feeling like a war.
Yeah,
Finally.
like those really big cinematic, like Halo fighting the Scarab stuff, like, oh, we're taking down this giant ship that's supposed to kill suns, which I thought seemed a little bit tacked on. Like, honestly.
Yeah, like he's gonna come to the system, steal the light, and then just blow it up and leave or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
To go back quickly to like Nick saying, he felt like an errand boy, and like as not playing Destiny 1, it is a point where you don't know how important light, like just saying light, means nothing to someone who hasn't played Destiny 1. So to have the first mission remove the light, that the player has no idea what it even is for, like to have it removed means nothing to them. Like if there was a mission, just one mission before where you had your light and you could just do anything, and then like I don't know, it's just you don't have your light long enough before it's taken away to give it any importance.
Yeah, having some
and
sort
you
of
don't
mission.
even know that your light it causes your abilities. Like they don't say anything about it really.
Yeah.
About like I don't know. Nick, I guess you could elaborate on this more.
Yeah. Like, I wish there was some sort of like cinematic recap or something about like the first game and some lore.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like everything in any sort of terms that they used, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
The funny thing is if you've played on console and you played Destiny 1, you did get a kind of recap through this visual representation of everything you did. And like it wouldn't make as much sense if you hadn't done it, but at the same time it also helped recap, oh, look at all this cool shit we did before we got to this point and then lost everything. But you don't get any of that if you come in new.
I think for Destiny's credit, it does do that to some degree. Like it did have the parts where the Vanguard leaders were like, oh, our abilities are stopping because that big thing is like hooking onto the Traveler, and it does like give you actual introductions to the enemies. Like it's like, oh, these enemies are this, and these enemies are this, which is honestly a lot more than we got in Destiny 1.
That's true.
Yeah, in Destiny 1, there's really no background at all. Like, not no background as in there's very little. There was just nothing in the game.
Especially about the enemies, which is a big shame because it's got some very interesting enemies.
Yeah.
Which actually, like, now that we're talking about story, what did you guys think about Gaul? And like, Nick, what did you think about Gaul? And everybody else, what did you think about Gaul in comparison to the other enemies, like from Destiny 1?
I'll go first since I'm the odd one out. I really enjoyed Gaul's voice acting. I really wish that they showed more of him and actually showed him more of being like a monster, but really you just see him in a single room the entire fucking time. Except for like the beginning where you meet him on the bridge.
Yeah, he's only ever in one place doing
Then
one
you can
thing,
actually
which
fight
is
him.
talking to the speaker.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, well, it's not much meaning. Like, I don't have to really get attached to any of these characters, really. not doing much.
Yeah, I feel
it's
like they developed him a lot just to end up having you kill him, and then you're like, okay, what was all this development for? Just so that we instantly end him.
Yeah, he's like he says in the final mission when he takes the light, he's like, "I'm Dominus Gaul, commander of the Red Legion, emperor of the Cabal." Like these long lists
Destroyer
of
of
titles,
suns,
yeah,
like,
destroyer
all
of
this shit.
suns, and eater of planets. Like, oh,
Like-
this
like,
yeah, this
this
crazy
is-
shit. And it's like, okay, but we didn't see you do anything.
Yeah, like within the story, he's the guy who overthrew Callus.
Yeah,
Like he's actually like really badass, but they just say
Don't
this
show
guy's
anything.
a badass
Yeah.
instead of showing it.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Instead of just kicking around this little speaker.
I do enjoy that you get to see an enemy and play through the campaign and defeat that enemy. Like it's a straightforward like you get or to an end. Whereas in Destiny 1, there was a lot of enemies that were just there that you never actually like finished off, or like there wasn't the gratification I feel like that was Destiny 2 had. Although it having it so rushed and having all the character development to end the way it does, like it's just so anticlimactic. But I think like having the resolution of like actually defeating an enemy um, is the right choice, but it's just done the wrong way.
I think they could have made him into a raid. That would've been cool.
That like with that said though, there was a ton of complaints from Destiny 1 that a lot of the enemies that you fight, like Taken King's a big example, like you don't, so if you would have bought Taken King and you would have played through Taken King, you don't fight the main boss, you would have to do a raid, which for a lot of like,
You,
like
you do kill
like,
him, but only like partly.
yeah, but I mean the raids are played by like, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's like less than 10% of their player base. And so many people were mad that like they don't actually get to finish the campaign pretty much because they can't play a raid. I don't know. So I think having the main single player have the ending that it did, and then having the raid be Callus, like a new enemy, makes sense.
I also think with Callus, I think they've left Callus in an interesting place where he will be an interesting person who will end up coming back in the future.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say earlier, is I think Callus is one of the most interesting enemies that they've had in Destiny, just with like the reveal at the end of the raid. Don't know if we really want to spoil that right now, but he is one of the more interesting enemies that I think they've had in the game.
Well, I think it's just because there's like some sort of mystery behind him, whereas like all the other characters, I mean, Atheon literally has no story whatsoever. The darkness.
That was kind of cool though. That like,
but I mean, it's just a robot. It's just a big robot. When it really
but it's like if when you first like discover it and it's like the Vault of Glass, what is this crap? And you have no idea what to expect, and then you like read into the lore, and it was like, holy shit, this is epic and awesome. Whereas
even Dominus Gaul though is like it's just a badass cabal. Like Callus, I think having some mystery there is like better than just being like obvious with it. Like I don't know. I mean, Orcs had a good story. Like he was obviously bad, you know.
Yeah.
But at least he was obviously bad in a good way.
Yeah, like
he was,
he had the backstory of like, oh, he's Crota's father, and he's like bigger and badder than like a hive god. So he had like a lot of build up.
He was a hive god. Like he was the hive god.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. The enemies that you killed in Destiny 1 had so much more weight to them. Like you killed the gods of the Vex and Hive.
Maybe
like,
with
literal
the exception
gods,
of the Axis.
You know? And in this one we
Axis
kill
pretty lame.
the Emperor.
We killed Gary.
Yeah, Gary.
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 Yeah. We kill a giant space turtle.
Speaking of that, kind of like, you know, there's the memeing of Gary, like in the promotional, having, you know, Cade be, you know, a Deadpool. I mean, God. I'm just saying, like, do you think, you know, Destiny 1's campaign was, you know, not extremely serious, but it was definitely more serious than Destiny 2? Like,
Destiny
how do you guys kind of
take
feel
itself
that?
serious at all. I don't like that. It's
I don't like that. It's just this casual, jokey, cringe-inducing, poorly written, flat.
It's a cringe fest.
Cringe
Yeah,
fest
I feel
of
like it doesn't
bad
know
jokes.
whether it wants to be Halo or Borderlands.
Yeah,
'Cause
it's some weird in between.
Yeah, it's always like it's always seems like they're paralyzed and didn't know exactly what they wanted to do, so they tried to just appeal to everything and everyone, and it just appeals to
Doesn't work.
no one. Like, I don't
Kind of
know.
like what Nick said about Jack of all trades, but master
Yeah,
of none.
it's a
Yeah.
game I could play and like, but I don't see myself ever really loving it like I did with Destiny 1.
Yeah, and this ties into a whole bunch of things, not just the story, like how they kind of just made exotics just way worse and feel way less special. How like this deals a lot with like gameplay, but how a lot of your abilities feel way worse, but your supers they've improved for some reason.
Yeah.
A lot of weird decisions.
Yeah.
Like it seems like they balanced the game for PvP, but then didn't make PvP good.
Yeah. The
like,
PvP in
and
this
MVP
game,
I don't know.
it feels so much worse. And I can't
It's
put
so
my finger on
bland
exactly
to
why.
me. Like, I don't know.
Going through the
It's just-
campaign for me is just like, that's you're going through the single player, but you never feel like you're getting stronger. Honestly, I don't know if that's because of the ease of which all the missions are, or if that's because like the progression system is just so simple to the point where it's like, okay, I just put a perk in this tree, put it in that tree, and even those perks are like very remedial. It's like melee someone, get a little bit of health back, or like melee someone
Or-
and you reload. It's like it's
Well,
just
no, even
nothing.
more than that. Like, there's traits that are even more simplistic. Like the hunter, one of their perks in the 6-shooter tree is that your golden gun is more accurate. It's like, what? Why is
Yeah.
this a perk? It's like, what the fuck?
How do you become more accurate when it's a single shot weapon that kills instantly?
Yeah, it's just like, why the fuck is this a perk on this gun? Like, or on this fucking tree? Yeah, there's so many decisions that are so confusing.
But like that's one of those things where like I mean I don't even know if they would be improved. Reducing cooldowns like should happen, but like to the degree of which some people want to just to spam nades, I don't know if that'd be extremely beneficial because I think like we're saying like at the root it's just uninteresting perks.
Yeah, grenades don't feel strong enough either, really, like at all.
Oh, well,
Other
then there's
than
just
pulse
there's
grenades.
Or
a
it's
few grenades
cooldown.
that are-
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah,
few grenades
for
that
how
feel
long the cooldown
overpowered.
is.
Yeah, pulses are just like do ridiculous damage for like no apparent reason. Like you don't even have to
Yeah.
be sitting in them. It's just like they just one burst will kill everything.
And there's no reason not to use a pulse. Like if you're in an art class, you use pulse grenades. You don't use anything else. There's
Yeah.
no reason.
Yeah. So it seems like we've kind of switched over to gameplay at this point. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I'd say
Sounds
we can talk about gameplay.
I want to give like a quick synopsis of my opinion on gameplay, quick, which is that I feel like overall they refined a lot of the gameplay in even more, or just kept it the same, I guess, as Destiny 1. Like gunplay is just as good as it was in Destiny 1. Abilities and everything feel good. You just don't get them often enough, I think. And maybe obviously we talk about some of the abilities don't really seem to have a good reason, but there's definitely a lot of things improved. Like a lot of supers have been improved and made a lot better in general. But also others have been made way overpowered. But I think gameplay in general has stayed relatively the same from the last game and not gotten worse, with the exception of abilities.
I think one of my gripes is that, like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right that they like moved all like you have two primaries and heavy weapon is rocket launcher, shotgun, sniper rifle, basically everything else.
Yeah, when a rocket launcher,
Because
not
like now I hardly ever
shotgun.
use sniper rifles. I never do.
Yeah.
I never use
I never
fusion
get
rifles
'em.
really, but
Sniper rifles are garbage in this game. There's
Yeah.
no reason to use them at all.
because they're just objectively like worse than just using a
Don't get
rocket
enough
launcher.
ammo, and
No,
you
you
don't
never have
deal
enough ammo.
you don't deal enough damage to make it worth it, and there's not even like maps or like anything to like complement a sniper. Like even in campaign, when you're like in these expansive areas, sniping is still like why? Like why would I snipe?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or just long distance PvP. That's it.
But I mean, that's the thing though. Like the PvP maps aren't even that large. Like we didn't get I mean, you didn't play
Yeah,
Destiny 1, but we didn't get any big team battle maps that would have, switched people from rocket launcher to sniper for like those game modes at least.
Yeah, even the longest of ranges in Destiny 2 PvP are like mid range.
Yeah, it's like you just use a scout rifle for it then.
Yeah.
Even auto rifles like work for pretty much every single map, like easily.
Yeah. And that is kind of too bad because I did kind of like it felt like sniper rifles were way overpowered in the first game, but it felt like there's got to be some other kind of solution than like just
Basically taking them
making
out
it so
Sticking
nobody
them all
ever
in the
uses
same
them.
slot. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't know, maybe they have like some kind of like it's like future sci-fi magic. You can figure out some kind of bullshit with the guns. Like maybe you have a different kind of sniper rifle for energy weapons and a different kind of like heavy sniper rifle or something. I don't know. It just felt different, but not necessarily better for me at least.
It's like for me, my biggest thing is always why don't they just separate, PvP and PvE? Like me and Alec were talking about this earlier. Like they said they won't do it, but it's like, do you think why do you think their decision making is on that?
For what?
For not separating PvP and PvE balancing, like because PvE, just like the normal stuff, raids and nightfalls would be extremely fun to just mess around with snipers and mess around with shotguns and mess around. Like you don't have to use a rocket launcher because you're just doing, PvE. It's just for fun. So if they balance it separately, they could reduce all the cooldowns because you don't need the balancing because you're just facing AI. The AI aren't going to complain when they're one-shotted, or they're not going to complain when, that can throw 3 pulse grenades in 10 seconds. It's just one of those things where like
and
the PvP is ultra balanced, like ultra balanced.
Yeah,
The balance
to
is the point of boredom.
And I would say even the balancing definitely should extend to weapons as well. Like because you can't have anything really out of the, like and be crazy good.
Yeah,
or
I mean the
like,
exotics
cool
are a
effects.
huge example of that. The exotics.
Yeah,
I mean, Nick hasn't seen again. Nick can be.
I mean,
Any of the exotics feel cool, Nick? Like
just take like
Mm,
yeah, like
they look cool.
But like when you think back to even Vanilla Destiny had like what did
Thorn,
Vanilla
bad
Destiny-
juju,
like,
bad
Thorn,
juju, like
yeah.
Gallahorn.
Thorn, bad juju,
Icebreaker.
Gallarhorn. It had pocket
even the
infinity,
non-exotic
It had the
weapons,
last word.
Like Vision of Confluence and guns like that, even guns that weren't
guns.
exotics felt like
What was
special.
Yeah,
what was-
guns had
there was-
actually identity, and like it felt they had a particular feeling to them.
Yeah, there was the shotgun that reloaded,
Lots
or
of
like
flavor,
regenerated
a lot of
ammo,
flavor.
and the
Yeah.
sniper rifle that regenerated ammo.
Yep.
And like there were so many very unique exotics, and there's no unique exotics really anymore. Or if they're unique, they're worthless.
Yeah, like the tractor cannon. Like I think that one is like cool and interesting, but it's like worthless. It's like a funny gun.
And like the tracer beam is really unique too, but the tracer beam's only really good at the end boss raid. It's not super good anywhere else.
Hmm.
Yeah, the only exotic that I've liked so far is the coil cannon.
Yeah.
Wardcliff.
Yeah,
Orchid Coil, yeah.
Yeah, Wardcliff coil is amazing, but that's just 'cause it's OP.
well, it's just so different than any other sort of
That's true.
weapon.
It's like the Gallahorn of Destiny.
Just still sad because it's still, I feel like, not that crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
felt
one of the
that
more
way.
unique
It has a
ones.
perk.
Like,
It has a perk that was on most rocket launchers in Destiny 1, which is like the homing rockets. That was like on most rocket launchers that you would use in Destiny 1. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It just comes back to that they like made everything too balanced, and now everything feels boring because there's nothing unique anymore. Because if they gave unique stuff, then people complain about how unbalanced it is. And it's
Yep.
it's sad. I'd rather people complain about unbalance than have everything exactly the same.
Yeah, I think like to answer Graham's question earlier, why not balance both of them differently? I honestly think that they're just lazy and it saves the money. Like there's a lot of things in this game that is definitely like you could have worked
I
like
mean,
10 more minutes on this and made it even better.
there's certainly aspects of the game that undeniably were made at a cost to the player and purely for the benefit, purely for attempting to make more money, like the shader issue
Oh my god.
and the XP cooldowns, for example.
Which they won't even acknowledge the
which
XP
they've not
cooldown.
even acknowledged.
Like, yeah,
They've like
yeah,
kind
like,
of acknowledged the chest cooldown. Like briefly said, "Oh, that's not supposed to happen with Cade's chest," but they didn't acknowledge that it actually happens.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, why can't you just acknowledge the fact that you have an XP cooldown in this game for no reason?
yeah. So I'll explain a little bit about this. So
Yeah, 'cause
basically,
I don't know what it is.
it ties into how you get. Basically, you can pay money in this game. You get this currency called silver, and you can buy these things called bright engrams. And that is how you get a lot of the really cool looking aesthetic items in this game, like ships, sparrows, and a bunch of other stuff. But you can get bright engrams by leveling up your character, and you can do this 3 times per week. By level, once you get to your max level, you can still level up. You just don't gain any levels, and you get these things called bright engrams. And 3 times per week, you can get them pretty quickly. Like you can grind for 3 bright engrams in like an hour, and after that, there is a very steep increase of how much XP you need before you can level up. And obviously, they do this because they want you to spend money to get these bright engrams. And it's a very steep increase in experience, and it feels super artificial.
Yeah, that's one thing that Destiny 2 is a huge victim of. They time gate a lot of stuff. Like in the schedule for, faction rallies, for example, are now a timed event, and like other things where you just have to wait to do, and it's like, why are you
Like you only
are
get
these
rewards
things
from a
take
nightfall
time?
once a week. You can only do the raid rewards pretty much once a week.
Yeah, like it's gone. Like it was kind of Destiny 1 was kind of, a once a week, kind of game. The joke of just you log in, get your weekly stuff done, and you're done. But you could actually play and get rewarded.
Well, and there was
adequately
reason to
for your
keep playing
time.
stuff because they had a lot of
Yeah.
like if you kept playing strikes, there was a reason. There was tons of shaders hidden in there and emblems
Yeah.
hidden in there, and now all of that is
And-
all stuck behind the bright engrams and the paywall. And then because there also is
And
this XP cap
because-
that they won't
yeah.
acknowledge, you can't actually keep playing. Like today, I was playing bright end. Well, so we played the raid today, and playing the raid ended up earning me a lot of XP. So then I probably got close to whatever their artificial XP cap is. And so then when I went to go do public events earlier today with a clanmate during double XP weekend, you get 17,000 XP on a public event. And so when the first time I got 17,000 XP, my bar shot up like a fourth of my XP bar shot up. It's like,
Yep.
oh my god, amazing. So I go to another public event, and my second public event, I get 16,000 XP, and it goes up a fourth of that fourth. So now I get 1/8. Or wait, that's less than an eighth, isn't it? Or is that still?
No, that's,
No, Nate.
that's funny.
Yeah. So then I got an eighth, but for the exact same amount of XP, basically, I got an eighth up my bar, and then I did another one, and I
it's
got
just negligible
and
entirely.
it's nothing. I got like a sliver, 16,000 XP, and it's a sliver on my bar. And then I opened a chest, and a chest gave me 1,000 XP, and I got way more than that sliver. And it's like, why are you doing this? Why are all these XP caps here? It doesn't like, and they won't even acknowledge the fact that they exist.
Yeah, because if they acknowledge it exists, then it might turn out like Star Wars Battlefront, and that's a pretty good segue, because I think the
Do we?
main difference. What?
Do we want to talk about that right now?
I think we should wait a little bit, or talk more about the bright engrams and
Yeah,
microtransactions in here
there's
first.
a lot we could still go on.
I mean, yeah,
with
we
Destiny.
can. I would like to compare and contrast the two. If you want to wait to do that, we can wait until later.
I think we still have more to talk about on like Destiny. Like, I mean, we kind of moved away from gameplay pretty fast to the microtransaction stuff.
I wanted to talk about the gameplay of bosses and the raid.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. This is where one of their aspects where I think they got really lazy and just bad at design is for their strike bosses. All the fucking same.
Oh, you did not see Destiny 1, boy.
Yeah,
Well,
I was gonna say like
Yeah, Destiny 1 was all
coming
the
from
fucking same.
the person in our group who has to play Destiny 1. That means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think like the raids
But-
themselves, like getting to the boss, fine. But the bosses themselves, it's literally just throwing waves of enemy at you while you're just trying to fight the boss.
Yeah,
Just circles
they did.
around or walks around.
Yeah, they did kind of make it that the boss goes around and then you deal enough damage and then you can't damage them for a little bit. And it's like the artificial time gate coming in
Yep, it's
again.
back to that artificial time gate that they keep doing.
Like,
Yep.
I think they did a little bit to improve upon that.
Oh yes,
Like-
they're massively improved on Destiny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Like-
definitely improved over Destiny 1. Destiny 1,
Yeah,
almost every boss at the end of a strike was just a bullet sponge. In this game, they are bullet sponges, but they add different mechanics. Like the Cabal dude with the sniper rifle will fly around to these different platforms, and you got to do
the
this
ball.
thing
overload
to
his shield core
yeah,
thing.
yeah, basically each enemy has like a different mechanic to bring their shield down.
Yeah, it's a bit better than just shoot this guy for 3 minutes, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's all you do.
Shoot this guy in the head.
Like that's such a small little mechanic. It still feels like nothing.
Well, coming
Yeah.
from Destiny 1, it's a massive improvement. 'Cause in Destiny 1, you would literally go into a room and there'd be a big guy with a lot of health, and you would literally just fight him for 3 to 5 minutes while tons of enemies came at you, and you just had to kill the boss while also fighting enemies the entire time, and that was every boss and every strike.
Yeah, it's like this is like another part where I like say like jack of all trades, master of none. Like these strikes are like dungeons in World of Warcraft or something. But for fuck's sake, even mini bosses in World of Warcraft had more depth than this game.
Yeah, Destiny 1 and
And it
2
gives you no reason to
are-
replay them. Like, there's like what 5 strikes, and
Yeah.
once you do them once, you're like,
Yeah.
that was it. 'Cause
There's
there's not
Yeah.
even heroic strikes. It's just another thing. They removed content that was in Destiny 1. There's no heroic strikes. Like, why?
Because they got to add those in later.
Yeah, because they're adding them in the first DLC, man. They gotta get that money from you. They
Gotta
gotta
get that
you
cheddar.
buy
It
the
just
first DLC.
doesn't make sense. Like, why are there not modifiers on strikes? Why is I don't know.
Yeah.
But while we're talking about strikes, we should talk about the Nightfall, because I feel like Nightfall is actually way improved over the first game.
Yeah, I mean, in certain ways, I mean, the biggest thing. Okay, what's the consensus on the timer? Yay or nay on timer?
I think in general the timer is good.
Yeah,
But
I
there
would
are
agree with
there
like
are
it 'cause
times where the timer is not fun, depending on the modifiers.
that. I think that there could be more modifiers. Like, there's a lot of modifiers from Destiny 1 that they just don't utilize, and I think they would be like perfectly fine in this game. Like, there's no huge mechanic changes or reasons
Juggler
why a
enabled
lot
all
of
the
the
time.
a lot of the perks in Destiny 1 would be fine in Destiny 2, but like they're just not there.
Yeah.
like
I don't-
Juggler would have been a good thing
Yeah.
to
Except
have
that-
a
except-
modifier for, but then they just made it built into the game anyway.
Yeah, the entire game
Which-
is juggler now.
Which is only necessary because they give you 2 primary weapons, basically. And they're like, it's basically a forced way of saying, oh, don't forget you have 2 primaries.
Yeah, which quite often I make my secondary or my second primary is I treat it like a secondary. Like, it's the gun I only use in certain circumstances. Like, hey, I have a sidearm. I'm only going to use that in close encounters, but otherwise I'm always going to use my scout rifle
Yeah.
or something like that.
So what modifiers do you have trouble with, Mitch, you said you don't like the timer for certain ones, or other
Alright,
times it's
so-
not important.
Well, I like all of them, I think. But like, so this week's was the one with the anomalies, and I think the anomalies are cool, but it also makes it really hard to find them. At least, especially in this last one, they're not very obvious.
See, I kind of like that where you have to like explore, but at the same time, one person learns all the locations, and then two people are kind of running the strike, while one person is just
Doing the timers.
having a little scavenger hunt on the side.
Like me, Zach, and Carly yesterday did Nightfall, and Carly she just got 230, so it was quite hard playing with Carly at 230, and then also trying to find the anomalies with her made it really difficult. We actually finished with 0 seconds left, which was insane. And we were really lucky to even finish it. But that was like a fun, difficult challenge, which I actually really liked.
It's better than the Nightfalls from Destiny 1, which, so Nick, there was no timer, so a lot of the strategy, and if you died, if everyone died, you would get booted back to orbit, and you would have to start the whole Nightfall over again. Like, Nightfall in D1 was, I think we can all agree, like, an actual challenge. Like,
yeah, it was a hardcore piece of content. It was meant to be like really hard.
But since it was so hard, what it promoted was using snipers that regenerated ammo. And
sitting in the back.
Just playing the game super safely. Like, not being aggressive at all.
Yeah.
So, like, the timer forces you to move forward. Like, it forces you to push forward with a group, play smart, but, like, play aggressive. So I think it is better than that. Like, it's more fun than using icebreakers and all sitting in the back and just shooting at bullet sponges. Because at the same time, these are the bosses that we just talked about where you just shoot them for 5 minutes.
Yeah, hide in a corner and shoot the boss every so often.
Yep.
When he comes into your field of view from your corner.
We want to move on to like the raids, like how different they are.
Last thing with Nightfall. Nightfall rewards suck in this game.
Well, we can move on to rewards because that kind of brings us on to the rewards. Like, even vendors and Nightfall rewards, because I think rewards are kind of all in the same category. It's just here's a piece of 300 light gear.
Before we do rewards, though, I do think that Nick had a point. We should talk about the raid challenges and stuff, like finished gameplay stuff.
Oh yeah.
The reward system is a whole thing that also goes back into microtransactions,
and it also adds into a different topic that I wanted to do, which is progression in this game, as opposed to like Destiny 1.
Just talk about raids then.
All right. I felt that it was definitely a nice, fresh change of all the previous content that I played until I got to do the raid. And it definitely felt a lot more of like what bosses should be doing and like what I expected from like a strike or something.
Definitely what I would like more content to be, but that's never going to happen.
Yeah, when I found out that you guys said like trials, like that's completely different than the first one, I still thought it was really nice and like a very fresh idea from many games. Do it that way.
The what exactly?
Trials that you do.
Oh, the challenge, the 3 challenge things or whatever.
Yeah, like the Gauntlet run and all that. It felt very different and like really changed up the gameplay that I thought really improved it.
I mean,
but I don't know because I haven't played Destiny 1.
Just to comment on that, like your experience was, wow, this is very different than the adventures, the campaign missions, the strikes. But like for people that played D1, it's just more of the same. Like stand on a plate, do this, or pick up item A and move it to area B. And I mean, but then again, it's like how much can you honestly do with an FPS? Like, I mean, we have guns, we can move, shoot, and those are your mechanics that you have to utilize. So moving, it's like, okay, we'll have to give them an area, which is the plates, and then shooting is like the gauntlet. Like we have buttons that they can shoot. I don't know how many other mechanics they can honestly put into a raid.
But that's why they introduce mechanics in Destiny 1 in the form of the Aegis, in the form of the Siva bombs, and
they need to do more of that. Yeah,
mechanic with those.
Wrath of Machine is probably one of my favorite fucking raids, and it
It's
wasn't
so
even
good. It's so
it wasn't
fun.
even like the hardest raid, but it was the funnest raid.
It was so much. It was just really cool and fun, and
Yeah,
like
I want to fight a killer Zamboni on top of the wall again.
yeah,
That was just it was a great combination of like cinematic combined with good gameplay combined with it's just fun because you get to ride this thing off the edge and like it's a big drop and stuff.
yeah,
I
like
do think
the
that
adventure style of raids
Yeah,
where you're working progressively towards a final big bad boss and killing his minions along the way.
yeah.
Like, and and you're going deep into this, super cool layer and stuff. Like even Wrath of the Machine, like you start out, outside or whatever, and then you just slowly work your way down, and then the run down to the final boss area is so imposing, and like that jump down into the pyramid room, you know,
I
Yeah.
mean,
it like
it's,
shows it
yeah.
out before you, and you're just the first time you see it, you're just like, holy shit, it's about to get real.
like Alex brings up the sense of scale that the previous raids
Oh
have.
yes,
And
scale
Yeah,
you
is really
see
important.
this massive Leviathan that's like eating a planet. You would think that it would be the most like expansive raid area, and yet somehow it manages to be the smallest. Like we don't get a drop. Like, do you remember all the raid drops? Just dropping into like huge pits. We don't even get anything near that.
Oh yeah, like dropping into the vault of glass is so crazy. Like the
Especially,
first time
like-
you ever have to drop like such a far distance, and you're just like, what the heck? Are we supposed to jump?
like dropping into the big dark area, the
Yeah.
Hellmouth.
Yeah, jumping into the Hellmouth, jumping into Vault of Glass, jumping down into Axis's lair. Like, those are epic moments that, like, bring a sense of scale to Destiny, just over the top and
And, like,
cinematic.
those-
And we
they're
don't
not
get
even
any of that.
gameplay. They're not even gameplay things. They're just really awesome set pieces that make it the raid experience awesome. And there's no set pieces at all in this raid, really, at all.
Yeah, there's like, it's like, oh cool, it's gold and shiny everywhere, and it looks pretty cool and stuff, but it doesn't really feel super epic.
It feels really
Although
empty.
it does have an interesting, I will say this, it's got an interesting feel to it. Like, I'm kind of glad that they switched it up. Like, oh, it's not we're going to fight this big bad guy. It's like we were invited here and we're participating in these games that this like kind of crazy turtle emperor guy is throwing, and he's like he wants us to succeed because he's got like this bigger kind of master plan sort of thing. So I like that feel of it. But it feels like they could have pushed the sense of scale in this a little bit. Definitely. Or
As we were like talking about earlier in like the raids, during the raid, like just having like patrols of Cabal, like
Yeah, and the
in the
underbelly.
underbelly, because like it just felt so empty and like the place is so huge and
And like the underbelly is pretty cool, but there's no reason to go down there. There's no enemies down there.
just once we get the keys.
Yeah, you get a key, you go to a chest, you kill some turrets, and you're done. And that's it.
yeah.
And I think that it's the Leviathan raid is still a pretty decent raid, and I think the challenges themselves are fun. I think they did a good job of making sure they're all very heavily teamwork involved. But at
Yeah.
the same time, they're once you know how to do them, they're super easy.
Oh,
All
yeah.
of them.
Yeah,
And-
like they don't. Yeah, like if you're doing your 20th time doing Vault of Glass, like yeah, you already know what to do and everything,
still a
but it's
challenge.
still exciting. And in this, I can see it. Like I've done it like 5 times, I think now, and it's already just like I'm. It's not really that exciting at any time, except for sometimes the final boss. But I don't know. Like none of the challenges are really that thrilling. They're just kind of
The challenges
yeah.
are like we did raid today, and we did the dogs in one try. We went in there
which is totally,
and we did the whole thing in one try.
fine, but it's
Yeah,
like
we did the baths in one try, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, bats
Yep.
in one try, dogs in one try, and then we only struggled a little bit on the gauntlet because we just had some communication issues.
Yep.
yeah. And
like
when it all goes like
And it's
when it
just gonna-
goes right in a Destiny 1 raid and you're killing a boss and everything goes right, it still is really exciting and like feels epic and stuff. But like when you're doing it in this raid, it's just like, oh cool, they did their task. Like that
Yeah.
person over there did their task.
Yeah, like I think at basically any point when we were doing like the Templar in Destiny 1, that always felt like exciting and always like, oh, we need to stay on our guard because this guy will fuck us up. And
Yeah.
in this raid, it's kind of just like feels more casual, honestly.
They're way more intense. Like there's a lot more risk involved, I think, in everything. Whereas in this raid, as long as everyone does exactly what they're supposed to do, there's no real risk of anything bad. Like
I mean, the Callus fight
Yeah.
at the end definitely feels like
that
the
one
most
feels
like
much
a real
more like-
raid fight.
yes, definitely.
Yeah, like, that feels like a pretty acceptable raid fight. Yeah.
But it's sad that that's the only like real raid fight. Like all the rest of them just feel like side challenges, like in other raids, like doing the jumping puzzle or doing the Zamboni or doing what are the other challenges? I'm trying to think. But like
I mean,
they're all the
Like
challenge
crossing
parts.
the bridge in Crota.
Yeah, they're not like the
Taking
like
King's
boss
ship,
parts.
ship jumping puzzle.
Yeah. And like those are fine. Like it's great to have challenges like that, but I want more boss fights. Like I think every other raid had it. Well, maybe except Crota had multiple boss fights, and that like you really got into those and like having to learn all of them.
Something that I think could have improved this raid that I actually thought was the raid the first time we did it, but turned out not to be the case, is if like instead of just 3 challenges that are like you face in a random order, if they had like 6 challenges and 3 of them were randomly selected each week, and the raid actually like changes each week and you do 3 different ones randomly selected. And
Yeah.
otherwise it's like, oh yeah, we're doing the same thing again.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah, the
It's
order
just the
is
order
just
that you-
dumb.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean that much, really.
Um,
We're gonna do the Gauntlet instead.
I think like switching the order of it makes it like thematically, like all the other raids are like very linear, but this one's obviously not. And I think it does kind of improve it for certain players that aren't used to doing a raid, because for a lot of groups, if they can't get past the first challenge, like each week, if they only have like 2 hours or
That's
whatever,
true. Yeah.
they're gonna only ever make it. You know, if they're doing Taken King, they'll only ever make it to the first boss, and they'll get extremely good at getting to the first boss, but they'll never get any further than that. But now that the challenges rotate, you know, certain groups of people will eventually get proficient at every challenge and eventually be able to beat the raid.
Yeah, that makes
That's
sense.
true.
And I think that is one of the things that I actually do like. I do like that they switch up the order that you do stuff in. I think that is a like good aspect of this raid. But and in general, I do like this raid. I like that they kind of changed it up, kind of changed up the formula of the raid.
I do
But,
think it is a little less DPS focused than a lot of the other raids. I mean,
Yeah,
yes, it's
definitely.
less bosses, but like all those boss fights were, okay, everyone put on your Gallahorn. Okay, everyone put on this weapon. Okay, everyone put on this weapon, and then
Well, they did a good job getting away from that though a lot, even with King's
with Wrath-
Fall.
yeah,
and
Wrath of the
no,
Wrath
Machine.
yeah, true.
Like, because King's Fall, especially Golgoroth, where you're literally too close to use rocket launchers, like the conventional methods of fights, you know, and Wrath of the Machine, they really did a really great job making it so you could use a variety of weapons. But yeah, it was very much true for Crota and Vault of Glass. Like, all right, slap on Gallarhorn, everybody.
Yeah, you got to do as much damage as possible right now because we need that damage.
Alec, could you turn your volume up a little bit? I have you at max and you're still kind of quiet.
I'm just talking really quiet because my throat's dry.
Oh, okay.
But I will move my mic closer to
Okay.
my mouth.
Oh, wait, just so we were talking about XP before. I just got 5,000 XP, and it came in as a sliver, like literally nothing. Just because I've been playing like all day. Just cause
And it's a
the whole
double
time we've
XP
been talking.
weekend.
Yeah, and I'm playing with Nick right now. We're both playing, and just garbage.
Yeah. Come play on our double XP weekend, except you can't actually earn any XP.
Yeah. Yeah, gain XP unless you're at the cap, in which case
Fuck you.
spend some money, bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we about done on
replayability of the raid, and then I guess we can get on to the rewards.
Yeah, for replayability for this raid, I definitely think it's lower than other raids, but I definitely don't. I don't think it's horrible. It's just lower in that it's. I don't know. It's a lot easier to get through everything, and so then you just.
Sorry.
I don't know. Well, Nick, what were you gonna say?
I'd say like they made a very poor choice in just like having the same raid week after week. I think it gives it more replayability if like you switch it up.
Although honestly, that's kind of what it felt like for Destiny 1. Like when the game came out, it felt like, oh, one raid isn't really the amount of content we wanted, and then they have their expansions, and it feels like, oh, eventually you get to the point where it feels like this is the amount of content that I want, which is kind of ties back into the kind of thing about the issue with microtransactions and stuff, because like with the season pass being $35, it's like, yeah, you basically need to spend $100 for the full Destiny game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just want one raid, which gets old after a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I think the prestige difficulty we didn't really talk about too much, but yeah, that didn't add almost any value, whereas a lot of the other raids, they're harder
It would
difficulty.
up your light level. It would be a different gear
yeah,
set,
not
or
only
you could
rewards,
only get
but,
certain
like,
gear
The
from.
way you did the raid also changed, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like suddenly you couldn't revive anymore, so you have to play completely differently. And then I don't know. There's a lot of change. Like hard mode versus the regular mode was a lot different in the last one. Like there's a reason to go play the hard mode because like, oh, we want all that gear. Like certain guns, certain armor is only available in hard mode, and now everything is available in normal mode. And it isn't the only thing you can get in prestige mode an emblem.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you finish prestige, you get the new emblem, and technically there's a new armor set, but it is a reskinned, or not even like it's painted. It's a different color, which with the shader system, the different color armors means almost nothing.
Yeah, because you just change all your colors anyways.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's very, very disappointing.
I didn't even realize it was a different armor set. Like a different. Is it just a different patterning or just different places the colors are put?
It glows like the flawless, so it has a small purple glow.
Okay.
Like the flawless armor. It's the same armor set from the raid, but with a small glow effect, which is always purple. So
Oh, that's sad.
doesn't even fit a lot of the color schemes from Destiny.
Another thing I want to talk about with the raid rewards is like why. Okay, so they came out with the really awesome re-release of all the raids in the very end of Destiny 1. And they came out with these really cool ornamented sets for every raid. Where's the ornamented sets in this raid? Why can't we work towards that anymore?
And it's something that they're introducing ornaments now for like season 2 or whatever. So I mean, I assume they didn't just create that all from launch, and they were always planning on doing that, which is again kind of going back to the time gating and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So, but
Tokens?
especially tokens. Do we even want to get started on tokens?
That's like reward system. We want to talk about reward system.
The raid rewards you with most of those challenges reward you with tokens, and so
It's
I think
horrible.
we need to start talking about that. Like,
Yeah.
I guess that goes along with progression as well. Like, I mean, I guess Destiny's way of progression is through
reward system.
through the rewards. So yeah.
All right. Well, I'll start by saying I hate the reward system in this game. I think it is the worst version of Destiny's reward system.
Yeah, by and
And
far.
like, there's definitely improvements, but like, it's not better. It's all over the place. I think there's a lot of good parts and there's a lot of horrible parts, and it's really hard to figure out if it's better or not. And I think in general, it feels like it's not.
For me, I don't really mind the tokens a whole lot, only because it's very similar. It's just a replacement to the reputation from Destiny 1, and it's transferable between your characters. But at the same time, it's like I still wish there was a vendor section that wasn't random. Like, yeah, make it cost like way more. You know, for a random engram, 10 tokens, or what is it? It's like 20 tokens for a,
Yeah,
20 tokens, one random engram. You're gambling at that point. Good. But for like 50 tokens, let me pick the armor piece I want. You know, or like that would just like there's simple things like that like it feels like if they would have taken the extra 10 minutes, they could do that. And with it being fixed roles, like a random system just doesn't make any sense. Like, you know, by having fixed roles and a random system, that people are going to get duplicates. And when duplicates have no place in this game, like at all.
Yeah, there's no value to getting a duplicate pretty much whatsoever.
Which was addressed. I mean, everyone quotes the Luke Smith, you know, how are we going to make your second better devils better? And that, I swear, that quote comes from like 3 months before this game.
Yeah, it was pre-release, and they were like, that was one of the things that we looked at heavily. And then it's like actually completely irrelevant.
It shipped like that. Like we have you in interview quoted saying this. You knew it was an issue 3 months before this game came out, and you guys couldn't put anything in there. I mean, I don't know. Like, that's a laziness that everyone can see.
But your second one might be a higher light level, and you can infuse it.
Yeah, and
it's
kind of like, why do you give me tokens if all they do is give reputation? You know, since you can't even buy anything with them, they might as well be reputation.
Yeah, it's exactly the same as reputation.
You literally earn them for the sake of the game giving you something to earn, other than just saying it goes straight to reputation.
Yeah.
But it's just not a good enough reason. Like, they made all the token backgrounds fucking green. Like, at least make them purple. Like, the Emperor Callus tokens are legendary. Just make them all legendary, so at least they feel better than getting a fucking stupid green token. Like, I mean, they already feel useless, but at least make them, you know, even though if you know they're useless, it feels better to get something that's legendary than something that's a gross green color.
Although, to be fair, nothing feels more satisfying than getting that 500 glimmer from those chests.
Yeah.
Glimmer as a currency is a completely different issue. It's like their economy. I think that goes back to
the economy is so broken.
Destiny's one economy was broken until, you know, year 3 probably, honestly, and even then it was like even then it's like still wonky. And they did the same in Destiny 2, almost worse. Like, I'm on console, I'm sitting on 2,000 legendary shards, and that's with me infusing my, you know, vault of 200 weapons, all to 300. I have 2,000 shards. Like, I don't need shards. It just makes no sense to me.
And the vault itself is a whole nother problem.
Oh, yeah. God.
I mean, if they're going to move to a collection-based game, which they're on record for saying, like, okay, if that's the new type of game that you want people to be playing, is like collect everything, then embrace it and give me a Pokemon Bank-like thing and give me enough space for all of it and even duplicates. Like, people like shaders, you know, people like the fashion, so, like, let me have a duplicate set, you know, it's fixed rolls, so whatever, but I guess, okay, I have my pink set of armor and I have my green set of armor. Like, I can't even do that. I don't have enough space for that.
Not to mention the fact that the default sorting, like, every time you put out put an item in, it like changes where your items are in the vault.
Yeah, everything moves. It's all
It's
gone.
like, why? Why does it mess?
I don't even know how that got through QA because
It's
you
literally
have
just all jumbled together. Armor, weapons, like put it all in one bank. Doesn't matter. No sorting needed. Also, we're gonna change up where everything is so that you have no idea what's in your bank at any given time. I went through my bank today using Destiny Item Manager. I saw so many duplicates because I just couldn't see items.
You can't see anything when you're going into your vault.
Like,
it's so frustrating.
Yeah,
like I look in there all the time. And I was also going through Destiny Item Manager today, and I was like, "Oh my god! I have 3 of this gun. Why?"
Yeah, and it's like, oh, because I didn't see it when I was putting it in, even though I looked, because I don't know. It's just a mess.
It's one of those things where it's like a obvious regression from D1 because D1 had armor, inventory, and weapons all separated.
And they can say like, oh, Destiny 2 was already like through most of its production by Destiny.
That was from
3
vanilla
and blah,
Destiny.
blah, blah. And it's like, okay, but then we have Rise of Iron assets in this game in the form of like a PvP map as well as other Rise of Iron assets. Like we have Taken King and Rise of Iron assets in Destiny 2, like that are like it's those environments, and then it's like, oh, we were already through development during these time periods. We couldn't add it, but then you have stuff from that time period in the game. And it's like, wait a second, what's going on here? It's like, why isn't this in the game? Like, like heroic strikes, going back to heroic strikes.
There's no specific loot for like if you're gonna be a collection game, like, and they said we want people to be running the lost sector to get shaders. It's like that's not how this game works. Like your own quote like fights what your game is. Like if I want to get a certain shader, there's nothing I can do. Like or next to nothing that I can do.
It's like hopefully on your next bright engram, out of the hundreds and hundreds of items, you get a set of 3 shaders.
Well, it's like even if I want Earth shaders, which is like all the planetary shaders are like complete garbage. So, but even if I wanted Earth shaders, there's nothing I can honestly do. I have to farm tokens. Like it's just a token farm.
Yeah.
And even then, it's just public events because the only way to really get tokens is to just play public events or because most stuff. Yeah, it's like.
Oh my god.
I don't know. Destiny 1 had a lot of replay value, and Destiny 2 does too, but at the same time, is like there almost wasn't an end for D1, whereas D2 they've given an end.
Like there was always something else. Like even if you got your 100th gun, it could have like 2 perks that you'd never seen in combination before. That even for 5 minutes you try it out and say, oh well, it's not that good. I'm gonna dismantle it anyways. But at least it gives you like when you get a gun, it's like, oh, maybe this is something I haven't seen before, and you could get the same gun with 2 different playstyles, like completely different playstyles, depending on what perks you rolled with it.
Though, to be honest, as much as I agree with you right there, I also think it was really good to get rid of random rolls.
I think there was a happy medium that they could have done. I think fixed rolls is an extremely bad model.
Maybe, I mean, if they had like one perk that rolled, that'd be totally different.
Yeah, that honestly, I'd be totally okay with one random perk that rolled. And also, like legendary weapons, there's no perks on them really anymore.
No, there is nothing.
I mean, my Trials weapon has 2 perks, but otherwise they all have like 1 perk, right?
Yeah,
and
pretty
they
much.
just
even exotics don't have anything anymore.
They
they're all
flat. All the guns feel pretty much the same and flat. And yeah, we already talked about that a lot, but yeah, no flavor on most guns.
All right, so one thing I want to talk about the reward system that I think is actually good about the tokens is that because there's tokens per planet, you actually do have a choice in like what weapons and armor you want to work towards, and that is something I do really like. That was very much improved over Destiny 1. It's like, oh, I really like this armor set. I'm gonna play on Titan because I really want that armor set.
Yeah, the planetary armor sets are cool. Like I mean, it's a cool idea. That doesn't mean I necessarily like the look of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been executed better, like many things in this game. It's Destiny 1 and 2 are both games with so much potential that they just don't live up to. And it's like such obvious potential looking like playing the game. It's like, oh, this could be like this could be like this, they could have done this, and it's like feels like it feels like a game series that might never just live up to its true potential. Like year 3 Destiny was the closest we got to like, oh man, this is fucking great.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they can get there again, but
I think the token system is garbage for the PvP.
Oh yeah, for PvP, you get nothing. The token system is like if you want to earn tokens in
you get
PvP,
the same shit win or lose. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't. Okay, so in Destiny,
Trying to get a weapon, but
in year 1 Destiny, people hated the token system that you got two tokens for losing, and you got what 3 for winning? Is that what it was? And
Yeah,
that was a
something
huge
really
deal.
bad like that.
So it's like losing is 3 and winning is 5. But now you get 1 token no matter what. What the heck? How are we regressed even further back behind what Destiny 1
like,
was?
It's so bad. Yeah. Like there's a lot of grind.
There's
but
so many
not
small decisions like
grind.
that. No, there's no meaningful grind. There's no incentive to do anything.
Yeah, there's really not incentive. Yeah. Incentivization.
And like one of the things that incentive-wise that's gone was grinding for shaders. Like if there was some really cool shader that you wanted in the strike playlist, you'd play lots of strikes, hoping that one day you'll get that shader. Or there's like what 6 shaders and strikes that you could get, or something like that.
Yeah, it was quite a few.
And now all shaders are locked behind a paywall and/or XP wall that is artificially capped. And then also they're all one-time use, which I think we have to talk about shaders because I think it's the most ridiculous thing.
Yeah, it's another one of those things that because they took out like the meaningful loot of, you know, random roll guns and like good armor perks and shit like that, it's just feels like one of those things that they tacked on to make you feel like you're earning something, but in reality it just feels like they did it to make you annoyed. And like Eververse definitely ties in as there, but
yeah,
it just feels like they tacked it on as a thing that you could progress towards because they took out like the big main progression things to chase.
It's one of those things where it's like I feel like they could have easily, if Destiny is going to be about the chase, like people like seeing numbers go up, and it's one of those games where it's like, yeah, you're just going to play until you see numbers go up, your level goes up, your light goes up, get more guns, get more tokens, get everything like that. So like for shaders, it's like we're earning a lot of there's nothing to work towards. You're getting a ton of shaders, but there's never any payoff. Whereas like if they would have just made it like if you get 50 of a certain shader, it becomes the permanent and you can put it on anything, like that'd be something to work towards.
Yeah, like that would be pretty cool. Yeah,
I think the biggest problem with shaders is like, so they're one-time use, which, okay, I guess it's not the end of the world, but the problem is if the good-looking shaders are locked behind the paywall, so if you get 3 of them, you can't even complete a set, and there's no good chance that maybe you'll even get those again.
Yeah, because there's so many items in Brighter Engrams. Yeah, there's so many.
And then because you have to pay Glimmer and their one-time use, I'm like afraid to use shaders. Like
certain shaders, yeah, are just like, okay, well, I'm never using these.
Like okay, like I have a few shaders that I got from Trials of the Nine. It's like I love
exactly the Trials ones.
They're so good looking, but I'm afraid to use them because I have nothing that matches them.
As well as the fact that, like, even if you do find a gun that it's like, oh, this looks really cool and I really want to apply it, it's maybe I don't want it to be like this for literally the rest of the time I play this game.
Yeah, because if I change it, like now I've lost that shader forever. Yeah. It's like now the only way I can get it again is by either luck or grinding the fuck out of Trials, or hoping I can buy it from
Trials. Grinding is so bad. It's
god,
it makes me just want to die.
We don't even need to talk about Trials. There's let's just not talk about Trials.
About PvP yet. Just like
yeah, we're running pretty long right now, I think, as well.
We can take a little bit longer on this one. It's a pretty expansive game, but
yeah, I know. But in general, I think shaders. I really hope they do something about shaders because right now, I have a stack of really cool shaders, and I'm never going to use any of them because, like, I have my armor set that I wear most of the time, and if I want to change the shader on that armor set, I have to use one-time shaders on all of them. So, okay, cool. My shader set right now on my Titan is all monochromatic, which is a really cool shader that I know Alec also loves.
Yeah.
And right now, luckily this week you can actually buy it, but that never happens. But even if you couldn't buy, say you can't buy it, I have 6 of them. I put it on my armor. Now I feel like today I want to be Callus's shader. I want to put on the golden, purple, and white because it's really cool.
Which is something you can do in Destiny 1 as many times as you freely want to.
Yes.
You can change your color all the time.
Yeah, but now if I want to be Callus's shader, well, I guess I'm going to stick with Callus's shader for like 2 weeks because all of my monochromatic shaders are gone now and I don't have them anymore. They're gone. So I have to now hope I can either buy them 1 week randomly from tests or get them randomly through a drop. There's like not a good in between.
Yeah. I mean, the in between is literally get a second piece of the same armor and put that shader on it, so then you have 2 sets. But then you don't have the vault space for that.
Yeah.
You just don't have the space for that. Yeah.
They have to fix one or the other.
I think they went in the right direction with the ornaments on the exotics, because you can use it on as many as you want and it's fine. But I feel like they just changed that because they want you to spend money to get more shaders. And yeah, I think we're at about the point where we should start talking about like the monetization stuff.
I want to say one real quick thing.
I want to say one last thing about shaders too, but you can go first.
Do the shaders first, because mine's not about shaders.
Mine's about shaders as well, but it might be what Mitch says.
You go first, Alec.
I was gonna say that it's amazing that you can apply them on guns. Like I love it that you can apply them on guns because it's really cool to be able to color your gun whatever you want. Like it's just nice. And it's also really nice that you can individually apply shaders to armor and like if you really wanted to, you could look like a fucking clown in this game. You know, you don't have to be all the same color set, especially because oftentimes in Destiny 1, it'd be like, this shader's really cool, except for this one little detail on the arms that makes it look like garbage. And you can circumvent that by finding a shader that colors it the way you want to for your armor set.
Yeah,
so
you said exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, I really like that you can do that, and that the fashion game in that sense has gotten stronger. So that's cool.
Yeah, the fashion game is good. Being able to choose all your pieces individually, great stuff. But just not one-time use is not good.
Yeah, I definitely like that part, and I definitely like that you can add your shaders to sparrows and ships and
like
weapons.
Really, really cool. It's really cool that you can do that sort of thing.
Yeah, and Graham, when you need to talk, just unmute yourself. I had to. They were doing the prize drawing, so it was getting kind of loud.
No problem.
Yeah, I think in general, shaders got better and worse at the same time. They somehow did both.
They did both. Yeah.
I feel like that describes a lot of this game, but
it does.
Yes,
it really does.
Yeah. So, we ready to?
Nick's point? Nick had a point to say.
Oh yeah. I forgot to say this during the rating portion. Why the fuck do I have to use a third-party system to find a person?
Oh my god.
Oh my god. That's a whole nother conversation.
2017. Yeah. Let's not make this. I just wanted to say that. Like, come on.
I mean, the
Yo,
very brief.
Do they want this game to be like a social game, or
that applies to like everything?
Is that the social?
Like
so
much on third party, like dim. Like everyone's just using Destiny Item Manager since D1, and so it's just like they don't need to improve on anything really, because like they're just like, okay, people like using third party stuff, and it's like, well, no, we don't like using it. It's just like you forced us to use this.
Yeah.
It's like,
I thought of one more thing. I'll come back to.
There's not matchmaking in game, which is like, okay, for raids, you can understand that for a raid, matchmaking probably wouldn't work on a large scale because
no, it really wouldn't.
It would just be really hard to get people to all, like, I don't know. It would be difficult, but
they do it for strikes, so.
And fine, but why on earth is it literally just impossible to find people in game? Like, why is there no text chat? Why can't I ask people to join? Like, if there's not matchmaking, why can't I at least just ask people if they want to run it? You know, like in game. Why do I have to fucking go to a website and find someone's name, add them as a friend, and then invite them? Like,
They classify themselves as an MMO, but totally take out a lot of the online portion.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling.
I have, before we do microtransactions, I have one thing back at the raid that we missed talking about, which was raid rewards. About raid rewards because they're so different than the other raids, and I think they're so bad.
Yeah. It's because Destiny 1, for example, in the Vault of Glass, the oracles. There's things called oracles, Nick, that basically they popped up and you have to kill it within a certain amount of time. Pretty basic mechanic, right?
Yeah.
You would like the guns in Vault of Glass. Like some of the guns would drop with a perk that says deal more damage to oracles in the Vault of Glass, so that when you get a gun, it makes it running the raid the next time easier, especially the hard mode. Like you get a piece of gear that actually makes the encounter, and specifically that encounter, like much easier.
Yeah, so all your raid rewards from normal raid made hard mode raid easier, or normal raid easier, because your armor and your weapons all would make the raid like that a little bit easier.
Get perks and
that was across every raid in Destiny 1.
Yeah, or it'd be like when you're carrying this item, this raid specific item, you'll move faster. You'll move slightly faster. Like just small quality of life things that, when all added together, like as a set, made the raid significantly easier in some ways.
That wasn't even what I intended to ask. Like, that's a very good point. But I was actually talking about the way we rewarded items in the raid.
Oh, yeah.
Using tokens in raid rewards is honestly the worst and most unsatisfying way to receive rewards in the raid.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you beat the raid. Now you have to take a few minutes and load into a tower and go walk over to this guy instead of just getting it directly when you kill the boss. Like, it was the best feeling ever when like you had spent hours and hours and hours working on a boss fight in Destiny 1, because it did take way longer in Destiny 1 to get the mechanics down.
Yeah.
I feel like it was more difficult on the mechanical boss fights, and when you finally got it down and like you saw the boss toppling over and the loot all popped up on the side of your screen and you can see it scrolling through on the bottom like of everyone's loot that they got, and it's such an amazing feeling. And now it's like, okay, we beat it. And
yeah, now you only get drops on Callus. That's the only place you get a drop, and then everything else is tokens, maybe a drop. And even the tokens, then you collect your tokens, you turn them in, and you're just like, okay, well now I got another random chance.
Yep.
And like
it's all completely random. It's not even like you can specifically try to get a certain thing on a certain phase, like in other raids, like each specific like boss fight, you had a chance to get like the specific piece of gear from that encounter,
or the arms, or like Vault of Glass. You know, the Templar would reward Vision of Confluence, and on hard mode, the Fatebringer, and you know. Yeah.
And what was the fusion rifle that never got
fusion rifle that was super rare to drop.
Yeah. I never got that. I tried so hard.
Okay, see right there, the fact that like some of us like, oh well, first of all, that we can remember iconic, drops from the first raid, but also the fact that some of us don't even in this group don't even have that after like 20 some, or like probably way more, like 50.
I've played Vault of Glass over 100 times and I've never gotten Praetorian Foil. And I am a fusion rifle like specialist. Like that is what I play, and I never once was able to get that fusion rifle. And as much as it infuriates me, I also wouldn't want them to change how you get it. Like, because if it was not that special, like it wasn't that hard to get, I wouldn't want it so bad.
They hit a really nice balance in Year 3 Destiny where the system worked that it would generally give you stuff that you hadn't gotten before, but not to the point where like you would still could run the raid a couple times and not get something, which like gave you incentive to keep doing it. And it was nice because eventually you'd like if you ran it out enough, you'd probably get everything. You know, especially I think they did that the most for armor. But
Yeah.
and like
Talking about that now in this game, there's now since everything's random, I can explain my horrible luck, which has been
oh god.
you guys know because you've heard me complain about it so much, is that I've played the raid on Xbox and on PC, and I have only gotten 3 guns. I have gotten Ghost Primus, which is the auto rifle. I've gotten Mob Justice, which is the SMG, and the grenade. I just got the grenade launcher, and that's it. But I have gotten Ghost Primus, the auto rifle, 11 times as of today. 11 times. Nothing else but that gun and those other 2 I mentioned. 11 times.
Yeah.
And there's no reason to keep any of them. You just dismantle them.
Yep.
It's complete garbage.
I'm just going through the Destiny subreddit at this point. Like, you can't replay whatever mission or specific strike that you want. Like, you have to just wait for the meditations or the strike playlist. Like, ugh.
Oh yeah, that is one thing that was nice to have, especially like because they got to the point where certain strikes dropped certain gear. Like you had special gear you could get from each strike that was actually really cool. It was like pieces of the boss's gear that you like took and you could put on your character, like the fucking awesome Titan gauntlets you got from like the Brothers strike.
Yeah, to be fair though, that was not a Destiny 1 vanilla thing.
Yeah, that wasn't vanilla, that was something they added later.
Something that absolutely should have been in this game from the start.
I don't know how they didn't have it in this game.
I can't fathom how they didn't have it. Like I literally like coming into this game, I didn't look at anything. I thought they would have strike specific armor sets.
Yeah, I just expected it.
I thought they were going to have full gear because it would have been a natural improvement over the one item that they had in Destiny 1. You know, it seemed like a natural progression, and then they don't have it at all. And it's like, wait, what are you doing? Like, why did you do this? Like, this, yeah.
I feel like we've turned this podcast into shit on Destiny 2 time.
Because there's so much, though. Like, there's so much to complain about.
To be fair, there's a lot of good with this game, but we played the first game, and we're
too passionate about this game to talk about the good stuff.
There's just
I think that's the thing. Is like you know what it could be. Like I mean, Alex said it earlier. Exactly. I think like it has so much potential. Like the gunplay is some of the best gunplay of any game. The visuals are stunning. It's like it has
the world is potential. So interesting.
Yeah.
Like, the lore is like.
I feel like if somehow like I love Bungie and I love so many of their games they've done, and I love Destiny. But I feel like at the same time, if we could give Destiny to a different studio, they might make so many different decisions that would make the game better.
Can you imagine CD Projekt Red making Destiny? Like, they would do such a thorough and amazing job. You know?
Well, let's get CD Projekt Red and Bungie together. Let's combine the studios and make a good game.
Kick Activision out the door. Like, tell Activision, fuck off.
Yeah, get rid of Activision. We don't need them.
Yeah. And
what else is on our list to talk about here?
Microtransactions.
I do like. We can do this after microtransactions, but I do want to talk about the aesthetic because I don't want to finish this podcast without saying the good things about it, which is definitely the aesthetic, the music, obviously like the gunplay and stuff. There's a lot of good to say about this game.
Well, let's trash talk it more by talking about microtransactions.
We're going to be trash talking lots of shit. So for a brief rundown of what has happened this week, because it has been glorious. The memes have been on point. So basically during this week, people got very, very angry about Star Wars Battlefront 2 because it also has microtransactions, only their microtransactions give in-game advantages. So
Pay to win.
essentially, what?
Pay to win.
Pay to
It
win.
is, yes. And people were very upset about various things, like the fact that you're able to upgrade these like things that you equip on your characters, which give in-game advantages, and if you pay money, you're able to upgrade those things a lot quicker. So it makes you a lot better than other people, and you are also able to unlock certain things like in-game heroes, like very iconic in-game heroes like Darth Vader. It takes a ridiculous amount of time, or you can spend money to get him. And there were things like employees of EA and DICE, the company that worked on it, and the publishers did an AMA on Reddit. And quite famously, I think it was like one of the most downvoted things in Reddit
It was
history.
the most downvoted comment by a very large
Yeah,
margin.
it was
by like
it
25
wasn't
times.
the actual AMA. It was a comment
Yeah, it was a comment on a
About-
on a
initial-
post about the game.
Yeah.
And it was like negative 400.
Yeah, it was like 400,000.
700,000 is what it ended at.
It
About.
was-
Really, 700,000.
It was quite frankly ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the AMA was kind of what everyone expected what it would be. There were a lot of very vague answers. It was not satisfying at all, and
Yeah,
what most
basically
people expected is
everything. They were like, "Hey, people are really complaining about these microtransactions. What are you going to do moving forward?" Or it'd be like, "What are you going to do to address this, address this, address this?" And literally every single answer was the cookie cutter response of, "Player feedback is very important. We're paying close attention and we'll adjust these accordingly." Like, they didn't give anything concrete. They didn't
We're
say
looking at
anything. They
Yeah.
just jumped around and said, "Oh yeah, we're looking at it. Don't worry about it."
And
I
kind
want to
of the,
quickly go back to that Reddit comment because I actually did the numbers, and so the Reddit comment with 700K downvotes was 35 times more downvotes than the highest downvoted comment ever in Reddit's history prior to that.
Damn.
Yeah, and the kind of conclusion of all of this about statements going like back and forth was that they shut down the ability to purchase in-game currency as they're like sorting this out. But
Temporarily.
yes, temporarily. That is the kicker, because they are not getting rid of this. It is coming back. They just want people to stop talking about it, essentially.
And
Yeah.
and they're calling it now accelerated gameplay.
Yeah. Like, if
Wait,
you-
what? I
like,
didn't hear that
trends-
part.
Yeah,
accelerated gameplay
yeah.
to buy stuff. That's what it is.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And
Oh my
It's
god.
not
This-
pay to win. It's accelerated gameplay.
What the fuck is that?
yeah, it's
It's like a loophole that they probably found. Like, oh, if we
Yeah.
call it this, then we can't be charged for gambling or some shit like that.
yeah, and that's been a whole nother thing. Like, they're saying loot boxes aren't gambling, and technically, legally, they are not gambling, I think. Even though
it's not
everyone
it's not gambling because
Because you always get something.
you always
Yeah,
get
it's
something, and that's
like-
technical.
That's
but
that's such a fucking
always
loophole
get
to
something.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like if you're playing blackjack and you lose $1,000, but they give you $1 back. It's like,
yeah, it's like
That's basically what it. Yeah, and then they're calling it not gambling. Like in, PUBG,
in what world is that not gambling?
Yeah,
the
where
world of
skirt
the
in
people who
PUBG
make
is
money.
worth like $1,000, and then everything else is worth literally like a penny.
it is
Yeah.
actually to the point where in China, they force games to show
Oh, yeah.
the drop rate of different things because they actually consider it gambling. So they actually make the developers show the drop rates where we actually get most of these statistics from.
They also buff the drop rates in those in China versus here because they
Yeah,
have to.
they're actually different.
Oh yeah.
Some games.
The drop rates are much easier there in China. And oh my god, how is China of all places not allowing loot crates, but we here are just like, loot crates, all good.
We like money.
And
Because money.
Oh.
And so
Dude, I
yeah, this
I was
is
reading an article that was like before EA started doing microtransactions and after, like they started making so much more money after they introduced microtransaction stuff.
Oh,
Like
I'm sure.
it's not
yeah,
even fun.
definitely.
Like they started earning like 10, 20 times the money once they started introducing microtransactions. It's
Yeah.
unreal how
Which is
much
why
money they
this will
make.
not change.
Yeah, it's
Because
what even if like yeah, because they're still going to be the people that spend thousands. Like all they
Well, it's
need is
the problem is that it's not even the majority population that gives them the money. It's like the 10% who has the money
not
and they
even
don't
10,
care. Who
like less than that.
It's
Yeah,
probably less than that, but they're the ones who unload all their money into these packaged programs and all this stuff, and that's why these companies have so much money. It's not because of the normal people. It's because of all these people with tons of money and no reason not to spend it.
yeah. But I mean, and really, like in a game that I play a lot of, and I have no like in certain situations, like in League of Legends, for example, like I over the 7.5, 8 years that I played it, like I spent a lot of money on that game, but none of it ever affected progression in terms of like how you really play the game. Like it's all
Well,
cosmetic
and that
shit.
game
It
was free
doesn't,
too.
and the game is free too, and so it doesn't feel like a money grab. Whereas if I was to spend money in Battlefront 2, it would be like, okay, well, fuck you. I just want to be able to play this character, you know. Whereas in League of Legends, you're unlocking something because you want to unlock something. Whereas now they're moving more towards it feels so bad to not pay for something that they're pushing you to pay for it instead of making it an optional thing.
yeah, it
Yeah.
feels like a fucking glorified mobile game, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
that is not something that you should pay $60 for. It's
Yep.
quite frankly, it's kind of unbelievable, and really, it really it really activates my fucking almonds. Because like this was one of my favorite games of all time back in the day, and just the fact that it's gotten to this point is unbelievable. But like, it's not just this game; it's to some extent Destiny. It is to some extent Shadow of War, and you betcha that they are going to have more games like this,
Yeah.
and it is more
Oh,
than
man,
likely going to get
everything's-
worse.
In games
All
that just
AAA
have
games
no
are gonna switch
business
to this.
having loot boxes, they have loot boxes. Like,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. I mean, even League of Legends, like I already just said, they're moving to like a loot box esque system.
They have loot boxes
Really?
in
They
Call of
just
Duty.
they just moved to a loot box esque system. Yeah.
Wow.
You watch
Yep.
other people open loot boxes in Call of Duty.
Yeah.
That's like a
Okay,
mission.
Call of Duty has a better social space than Destiny. Like, what the fuck? Like when I briefly had Call of Duty, you know, when I bought it
Yeah, you actually bought
last
it.
weekend, and I went to the social space and I was like, holy shit, there's literally live leaderboards that I don't even have to click into that I can just see right there. There's a shooting range, you can watch people open crates. Like there's so much. It's like, why the fuck isn't this in Destiny? Why can't I view this stuff? Why is this not like why is a Call of Duty game that shouldn't be a social area? Like why does this outdo Destiny? It's just absurd. The absurdity of it blew my mind that it was more community based in a Call of Duty game than Destiny. It was absolutely unreal that they have better ways to communicate and create a sense of social interaction than Destiny does. It's crazy.
I've been reading a lot about this and just kind of about EA's kind of mentality about this, and it's actually they are moving away from relying on releasing games on their own. They're moving towards this concept of games as a service.
Yep, that's how
That
everyone's switching to.
They don't release a game and you play it and you enjoy it. It's you play it and you pay them money over and over and over to continue to enjoy it. And
That's how Destiny is.
I actually saw this thing where they did studies on like psychologically analyzing people who complain about their games, and people who complain the most about this sort of thing are the people that shill the most money for this sort of thing. And so their mentality is, well, why don't we just milk these fuckers for all they're worth? And
Yeah.
it's
There's business has slowly taken over the gaming industry.
Yeah.
Like,
you actually just reminded me of some
Yeah.
notes I wrote on my phone, and it's like a fucking manifesto of this kind of theory I had, where it's like, it's a very weird situation where, like, back in the day, people who played video games weren't like, it wasn't this super big mainstream thing. But now that it is, you've got these corporations that are like, oh, we have these markets, and you see corporations talking about like kind of the gamer identity. And it's kind of disgusting because you know that they're only talking about it because they see this as a market to be exploited.
Yep.
And yeah, it's at this point, it's not so much about the games themselves as the people shilling the money. And as long as this sort of trend continues, I feel like the AAA games are going to get worse, and I think the indie scene, kind of what we've been discussing on this so far, is going to get better until I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe some kind of other, like, they've had video game industry crashes in the past. I don't know if we'll have another one. I think at this point, the corporations and kind of the publishers understand this well enough so that we won't have that. But I don't really see the kind of end game of all this.
I feel like that the indie market is just going to flourish, and more people are going to play those than AAA, probably.
I already pretty much exclusively play indie games now, with the exception of Destiny. I think that I just don't feel like my money is worth it anymore when I put my money into a AAA game. And like Destiny is an exception where I put 800 hours in Destiny 1 and I maybe spent $250 on it, of course, its life cycle, but I got 800 hours out of it. And I think that's personally how I feel Destiny 2 is going to be, so I'm okay with that. But I think in general, most games, I don't feel like putting money into a game as a service over time because I don't think I'm going to put the hours into it that I think are worth it.
Yeah.
Plus, indie games, people do really interesting things with indie games. You get really unique concepts that aren't just about money grubbing.
Yeah, and like I think it's important to state that it's not necessarily the game developers. Like, we're game developers, so I'm kind of biased on this, but it's mostly the publishers that are trying to wring every bit of money out of this as they can. But at the same time, the developers are culpable because they're like, oh, well, they offered us a boatload of money to, like, with Destiny, release a bunch of content on PlayStation earlier.
Yeah,
and
it's like they and people will defend it too, saying like, oh, they have to keep their jobs and blah blah blah. It's like, I don't know. As a company, I feel like you should be able to be like, this is the decision we want to make for the gamers, that we're not going to go this path. Like we don't want to do that or something.
Project Red, like,
yeah, like
they're just like, we want to make good games.
Yeah, whereas Bungie is like, you know, they'll come out and be like, oh, we want to make the best game that we possibly can and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, then change this and it'll be better for us. And then they just don't say anything because they're like, okay, but that might lose us a little bit of money. So how about no?
Yeah, EA won't let us. And another thing I need to bash EA for is just, what company did they buy recently?
Oh, God. Respawn.
Respawn. Oh yeah, that's right. So I hope you're looking forward to Titanfall 3 having loot boxes.
Yeah,
it's gonna be
Titanfall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, honestly, any multiplayer game coming out in the future.
I don't know. Like, didn't they shut down the company that made Dead Space?
Yeah, Visceral's gone.
Visceral, yeah.
But I read a lot more about Visceral. That wasn't really EA's. Well, it was partially EA's fault, partially not.
Yeah.
I mean, BioWare got sent down the shitter. There's so many companies that have.
Well, the
gotten-
biggest problem, the reason all these companies fall apart is because once they get bought out by these big companies, the people who made those companies good leave and make new studios.
Yep.
All the people who made that studio what it was are gone. So now it's just a name. That's all that's really left.
Like that's pretty much what happened to Bungie for sure.
Yeah, there's still some people at Bungie who've been there from the beginning, but there's
Yeah.
not nearly as many.
But like a majority of them are new people, and yeah. Well, if we've gotten through pretty much everything,
Well, we never
Zach
really
said,
talked about microtransactions in Destiny.
Yeah,
We kind of did with the bright engrams and stuff. I mean, yeah, you're paying $100 for a full game.
I think the one good thing with bright engrams is at least it's all cosmetics, but at the same time it's
and at least
all
it's also
cosmetic.
not.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
all
one thing
cosmetics.
that kind of annoys me is we defend Destiny because it's the least bad out of like all the bad examples, and I don't really think that's a defense. Like we're still talking about
it's gonna get to the point
microtransactions in a
where-
in a $100 game for the full game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to get to the point where a game is going to be advertising as like, oh my god, we don't have a loot box system, and people are going to be like, holy
There's
crap, that's so
already shit like
crazy.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
And you got like what was it was like Assassin's Creed. It's like you got the pre-orders, the
oh god, yeah. There's like
Fucking
8 different
pre-order.
versions of the
like
game
buy this
to buy.
game before you find out how shit it is.
Yeah, seriously. Ugh.
I don't know, but I think yeah, like I said, the biggest problem with Destiny is that theirs is all the cosmetics, all the good shaders, all the exotic sparrows, all the emotes, all the ships, all the sparrows, all the shaders,
If you didn't
all the
say.
ghosts.
It is only aesthetic, but it's all the best aesthetic stuff that like makes the game colorful and interesting
Yeah,
and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, they put all of it behind basically a paywall. Otherwise, you can grind it out in game, but you can only grind it to a certain point because they cap your XP after X number of levels.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is about the extent of my rant about microtransaction.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have anything in particular about Destiny that they have to say?
I do want to add like about aesthetics and stuff because we didn't
Oh,
really
yeah.
talk about this. I love the soundtrack in Destiny 2.
So
Like,
good.
It reminds me, a lot of it reminds me of Rise of Iron, and I just think it's great. It's really stood out to me as one of their better ones.
I think the soundtrack is they have like the soundtrack in Destiny 1 was really good and it just got way better. Like they have figured out what the music is in Destiny and it always feels right at the right moment and it's always playing really well and I can't wait till I have a little bit more money and I'm going to buy the soundtrack.
But I do wish I could turn the volume down without having to turn it off.
Yeah, why
Yeah,
are there no
definitely.
sound settings? Why do we have one and up? That's it. Where
Like-
is my ambient sounds versus background music versus I don't know what
Yeah.
else there is.
Destiny 2
effects.
feels like
Yeah.
a game. It feels like a game that was made by an indie developer, but in some areas has AAA polish. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like the
Yes, I
gunplay,
know
it
exactly
feels
what
like
you mean.
it feels like a good, big studio game in terms of gunplay and like world design and graphics and aesthetic and everything. But then it's like indie company, we don't have a music slider. Like it's like what the
yeah, we
fuck
don't
is
have text
this?
chat
We don't have a
and
text
we can't
chat.
communicate with
Yeah.
other players.
Yeah, it's like what the
And it's
fuck?
like-
Yeah, it's
like
so weird.
why are these things not in here? Like you're a AAA game studio and you're selling yourself as an MMORPG style kind of thing and you are missing all of the traditional built-in ingrained things that
Yeah.
have been there for like 10 years
Like it's
or more.
it's almost hilarious enough that it's excusable because of how funny it is. Like it's almost at the point of hilarity that it's okay because it's so funny. Like,
Yeah, and the thing that is most frustrating about it is they had, like, like a whole, not even a whole other game, like a whole other like game and then multiple expansions to like, and I know they started working on Destiny 2, like I forget at what point they started working on it, but it wasn't before. It was like, I don't know, during some of the expansions.
It's like while one Taken King was being worked on. I think
Yeah,
when they started.
Taken King and Destiny 2 started around the same time of development.
But they still had a lot of time to like understand like what worked, what didn't, and where they wanted to go with it.
Yeah, and so many of the changes didn't carry over. So many, like, they ignored a lot of the lessons that they should have learned from Destiny 1. It
I don't know.
seems.
Like to me, it's like it's one of the. I loved Destiny 1, and I would say most of us here treated it on the more hardcore sides of things, and Destiny 2 feels like 100 times more casual.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if like that's them just like doubling down and saying like, well, we don't want to be hardcore anymore. Like we didn't expect people to grind out the first game like they did. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's just such a shift, but like
The problem is you hear Luke Smith talk about the game, and he is a hardcore gamer just like us, and he compares it to WoW all the time, and he's the lead designer.
What?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they're really good at like hyping things up and making things sound better than they are. Like in Destiny 1, I remember for the very first Iron Banner event,
Oh my
they
god,
were
I was really
hyping it
looking
up.
forward to it.
They were hyping it up in Destiny 1 because they were like, there'll be a whole new area in the tower that's going to open up and be able to explore. And people were like, oh man, where's it going to be? What's going to be in it? And blah, blah, blah. And then it was this area of the tower that you could see into all the time, anyways. And the only thing that changed was that there was a guy standing in it.
Well, that's like how they hyped up.
But they hyped it up as like, oh, there's going to be a whole new area in the tower to explore. And then it's like absolutely nothing at all.
Look at the farm
like,
hype. Like it's such a misdirect.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
Oh my god, the farm.
It's basically useless.
Yeah,
after you get to max level.
Bungie's hype anymore. Like Bungie hypes up so much shit, and it's like, yeah. At this point, it's like, okay, guys, I'll believe it when I fucking see it.
Because they did the exact same thing when we were talking about with Zavala showing up in the first mission. They hyped it up. They kept showing it. Look, Zavala's in the gameplay. You're
Yeah,
gonna actually play with these people. Oh wait, that's just one mission. We just wanted to pretend that that's what we're doing.
Yep, the kings of hype and the kings of not delivering.
Hey, they have been the kings of hype forever, and they did deliver on Halo 3. That was forever ago, though.
It's like 11 years ago at this point, or like.
Yeah. Well, no, it's
They were pretty much a different studio.
We're pushing like 13 years on that because
No, it's
Master Chief
2007.
Collection. Was it?
Yeah. So this was the 10th
like
anniversary
10
year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was 10 years for
And like Halo 3 is the only game where my expectations were so high and yet they were still blown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously. Like
Halo
I
3 was
remember
great.
being so hyped. Like
I don't think I've ever been hyped for any game ever more than that, and also had all my expectations exceeded.
Yeah, like remember this video series they put out where they had like old dudes that were soldiers in the Memorial Museum.
Oh my god, the ad campaign, the Believe campaign.
Yeah, it was
Oh
all
my
so
God.
good. Like I
And
just got
even-
chills through my body just talking about it.
I know.
Like
The
and
nostalgia.
also, like I felt like that was very similar with Reach. Like I really liked
yeah.
Reach.
Reach also really had a good ad campaign.
Yeah, like remember Reach, and it's like that's probably one of my favorite.
Man, you guys
ads
keep
for a
giving me
game,
chills. I'm getting
period.
Yeah.
I'm
all the
shook.
nostalgia is just shoving back.
God, I
coming
just want to
back
go watch all
so
of that
hard.
now.
All
Just
right. All right.
blasted.
It's almost 9:30. Let's wrap it up with some good stuff to say.
Okay, yeah, we got.
Pick sort of like one thing from Destiny that you like the most. I'll
Yeah,
start.
and
should all go around
I would also add, like, would you recommend this game?
Ooh, that's hard.
Either
okay,
to somebody who is like a fan of like Bungie games, this kind of game, would you recommend?
So I know pretty well what I want to say, at least for the thing that I really like about the game, and that's that the patrol areas were made to be like a really big part of the game, and they feel very much alive and engaging. Like I could drop into the European Dead Zone right now, and let's check out what's going on. Like there's multiple public events going on right now. I could drop in, and there's probably like high value target running around. there might be an interceptor incoming. There's a roving band of pikes. Like there's these little mini world events happening all the time, and it really makes the world feel alive in that sense. And it's really cool that there's always something happening in the worlds, you know. And
Yeah,
with
the
lost
patrol is really,
sectors
really
too,
well
like
done.
lost sectors make like it. They really added a lot of depth to the actual planets in this game, and made it much more like MMO styled. I feel like in that regard, which I think is a step in the right direction. Like the worlds actually feel like worlds now, which is nice. And then as for if I would recommend it, I would say probably yeah. Like I would recommend it because it is a fun game, and like for the first 2 weeks especially, I was having the most fun with the game. And really, the more you play it, the more you understand its shortcomings, and the more it annoys you. But overall, it's a pretty good game. Even if you're just gonna pick it up, play it, and put it down, it has its worth and it's fun.
Yeah. I would say that I love this game's world. The world they've built, the characters, not always the characters, but the world, like the races, the planets, the
Yep.
visuals, like the design, like the universe they have built is super interesting, and I want to keep exploring this world. I want to keep going to new planets. I want to keep exploring new Vex ruins. I want to find out what the next Hive God we're going to fight is, what the next Fallen thing is going to be. What are these black triangles at the end of the game? Like, I want to know all this stuff. Like, their world is
Yeah.
so interesting.
Yep.
And I love it. And the aesthetics are great. Like, all of that is super wonderful. And as for if I'd recommend the game, I would 100% say it's worth getting. Like, I know we shat on the game the entire talk, but we shat on the game because we love the game. And because we like the game so much, we have so much to say about how the stuff that we want there is not there. And if you're going to buy this game, you can easily get 30 hours out of it without having to complain much about the game. I feel like that's a pretty solid.
Yeah, I
thing.
mean, for me, a pretty straightforward benchmark is like if would I pay $1 an hour to play this game? You know, if I can get 60 hours out of a $60 game, then it's like okay, whatever. $1 for an hour of entertainment is totally fair to me. You know, and in that regard, Destiny does deliver.
Yeah, I would probably follow up with the same thing. Like the world's amazing. Gunplay is super fun. If you had, I would say it's definitely better with people. Like if you're gonna play this game solo, it's probably not as good for your money. But with even 2 other people, you're gonna have a great time. And what I recommend would be like, of course, again, you know, if you can get $1 an hour, and you could easily hit that benchmark. And even if you're just going to run the campaign, the side missions, if you just do everything once, that alone is way worth it. Like you'll get some enjoyment out of it, and then just come back for DLC. Like it's definitely not recommended for like the grindy part that Destiny 1 was, but just playing this game casually is enough to get some value out of it. Yeah.
I can do mine. So what some stuff I liked about it, I actually did like a lot of this game. Like, I think for the shortcoming with the story, there is so much to this world, and I really agree with what Mitch said. Like we talk about this game's flaws because there is so much potential for this game. Like something I particularly liked that I already mentioned it is like the stories that you get when you unlock your new subclasses, and it starts telling stories. Like I remember one where it's like Lady Aphrodite throwing this other striker titan at a fallen tank, and just like it was such a funny, like interesting story that just fleshed out this world so much. And the story was so interesting too because it's like these guys can't die, so you realize like, yeah, why don't you just go just deck these motherfuckers, because it doesn't matter that they have guns and you don't because you're a fucking guardian. And so there's so much to this world that I just really like. And yeah, the gunplay is fantastic. I certainly wouldn't be playing this game still if it didn't have a good core gameplay loop. So I would say if you like competitive shooters, if you like kind of these weird sci-fi magic game world sort of stuff, I would definitely recommend this game. If it does get kind of grindy, it is vastly preferable to play it with your friends. Yeah, I would recommend it, but that's coming from my perspective.
All right.
Here's
For
the
me-
opinion that really matters. the new
person.
Yeah. For me, my favorite part is the guns. They feel really good to shoot. The recoil, except for the sounds. I think they range from pretty mediocre to pretty trash. Except for like the graviton lance, the sound effect for that.
Graviton Lance is truly the greatest crime in this game.
It is. Why do they do that?
Yeah.
Alright, Nick. So yeah.
But
Continue.
yeah, really enjoy shooting the guns and whatnot. That's pretty much what you'll mostly be doing in the game. So good thing that they made that good.
Yeah.
Would I recommend this to others? Only if you have friends. I don't think if I had you guys to play with, I would probably blow my brains out like halfway through
Oh, man.
by myself.
You don't have people to play the raid with. It definitely probably takes a huge part away
the
from this game.
Content.
You kind of miss out on a lot of content if you don't have a group to play a lot of it with.
Or
Yeah.
just talking to anyone.
Yeah.
I've run a couple strikes by myself, but nobody ever fucking talks. So it's just like, okay,
Yeah. They're like, they want to build the community, but they don't give you the means to if you're a solo player.
Yeah, and that's opening a whole new can of worms with like, what kind of community are you going to have if you let people talk to each other? Like, we all know the opening of a PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds game, and nobody wants that ear cancer.
Oh God.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's like, why can't I talk to these people?
Oh,
Yeah, that's true.
Bungie has too little faith in the community.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, today, like while running public events, there's people that don't know how to activate heroic public events.
I know. And how do you communicate that to them?
Yeah.
Literally, the entire community would know how to do it by now if there was
A way to communicate.
A way to communicate. Everybody would know how to do it. Like, and it wouldn't be a matter of toxicity anymore because everyone would fucking know. Like,
It'd be less toxic because you wouldn't have stuff to yell about.
Yeah. You don't have to,
like,
you don't have to shit on your teammates for
I
not knowing.
always just curse them silently. I'm just like, God damn it, you stupid piece of shit! What the fuck are you doing, you dumb bitch? Like, it's like, why the?
Instead of just messaging them, can you please shoot this?
Yeah, seriously. And you're like, can you shoot this? This is how you activate the heroic. And then literally for the rest of their entire Destiny 2 career, they know how to do it, and it's never a problem ever again.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's oh man.
The weird issues that this game has.
Yeah.
And they're all self-created by the
Yeah.
game developers have created their own issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think kind of the nutshell of this discussion was, yeah, it's better in some ways, worse in some. God damn it, Bungie! Why can't you make this game what we want it to be?
Yeah. Why can't you fulfill its destiny?
It's such an interesting coincidence. Like, I remember. Have you guys ever heard of the game Remember Me?
Yeah. I wanted the game to be so good.
Yeah, I wanted it to be so good, but it wasn't very memorable.
Oh
And,
man.
that was just the fucking joke of that week.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, if that's kind of where we're ending it, does anybody have any kind of closing statements?
Nope.
I have one. Okay, I know we shit on Destiny, but we also recommend it. If you're still wary, wait 1 year. Get Destiny in 1 year when you can buy all of the expansions for the same price we paid for original Destiny.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It will be 100% worth it when you can go in 1 year from now and you can buy all of the content that came in year 1 plus the new content for the price of vanilla Destiny 2. It'll be worth it because that's exactly what happened in Destiny 1, and it was totally worth it then, and it's going to be totally worth it in a year.
Yeah, all of the expansions and everything for Destiny 1 together for $60, I would say in a heartbeat, get it. It's great. But
Destiny
yeah,
2 it remains to be seen how
it
much
does.
they can improve over the next couple of years.
Yep, I'm hopeful. I think this game is honestly at a better point than Destiny 1 was at this point.
I think they have a better base to build off of. But
Yeah.
they shouldn't have the base shouldn't be so much lower than where they left off
than
the
year
last
3.
game. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I understand if it was be like a little bit lower, but there's so many things that are just blatantly not present, and it's like, okay, well, that should be here.
I think that the most interesting thing will be as it progresses and the new expansions come out, will we slowly realize that it's all there, but we're just slowly getting it in paid chunks? Because if that's true, that's going to really piss me off.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, with that being said, I'm going to take us offline.
Goodbye.